Hey guys, how's it going? It's Robin Vogt from the Brick City Blockade Podcast Network and Star Wars. This is episode 13 of the podcast. And sitting across from me, Emily, thank you so much for coming on.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, so it's been awesome. I've been seeing all your artwork, everything that you're doing, and love to know more about, and I think our listeners would love to know more about, is KidsCon and EPLIS Comics and everything you're doing in the community.
Awesome. Yeah, so I have a fun sci-fi series I illustrate, and my husband and I write it together. It's just for kids. It's called EPLIS. It's a fun, wacky sci-fi adventure. Think of it like those Saturday morning cartoons from the 80s and 90s, and it's just got lots of fun goofiness about it. And we have 4 books in the series so far, and we've been doing it for the past couple of years, going to Comic Cons with that. And then I've also, for the past about 4 years, been running the kids activities area at Comic Cons and call it like the Kids Zone. And I teach cartooning workshops there for the kids, and we do all sorts of fun activities like mask making and creating superheroes and creating a comic book. And that prompts me to want to do the next step to start a comic book convention just for kids called KidsCon New England. We just had our first year event this past June, and we have our second show coming this June 11th at the Radisson in Nashua, New Hampshire, and we're really excited about it. And it's all about promoting art education and literacy through comics. And comics are a great way to get kids excited about reading, which they otherwise would not. Like, not every kid is into those boring, wordy pages. So
Right.
comics are really fun, and also inspiring the next generation of comic book artists and creators. So, yeah.
Absolutely. That's one of the things here at the podcast network we like to focus on is the community aspect. And you convey such a great message. I'm an educator myself, so I know kids like to learn in different ways, and they love to be part of the comic book community. I know tons of students that like to sit down, read through a comic book, and even during art classes, like to draw their own kind of comic book characters and everything. So that's really cool that you get to do that. Now, getting into the Star Wars talk, of course, I know, Emily, you are a big Star Wars fan. What kicked off your fandom when it comes to Star Wars?
Oh, what was the first part? Sorry, you broke up.
When it comes to Star Wars fandom, I know you are a big Star Wars fan. How did your fandom really kick off for you, and what is it about the Star Wars universe that you like so much?
Yeah, I grew up with kid of the 80s, and so when Star Wars came out, I remember I didn't actually see it in the theaters, but when it came out on TV, I'd watched it. And then my parents got the VHS and all that, and I frequently binge watch it. And I just love the fantasy of it. And
Right.
I'm also really big into anything sci-fi. My dad brought me up on Doctor Who as well and Star Trek, and I just love those whole worlds that they create. Particularly Star Wars, I like how it's, I mean, if you kind of think of it like a graphic novel, kind of, but visually, and I love the stories in there. Luke Skywalker, just like this boy, he becomes this cool, awesome Jedi. That was, every kid wanted to be Jedi, right? Like Luke Skywalker. but, but particularly my favorite part about it are the droids. I love R2-D2 and C-3PO. I always thought they were funny. And I still love drawing robots, and that's one of my favorite things to draw, and particularly in my sci-fi comics. And
Yeah, I could tell.
yeah, some of the characters are inspired by them. They look a little like them.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about your artwork, and one of our favorite pieces here at the podcast network. This episode, and I have to admit, the minute I saw that, I fell in love with it, Emily, in about 2 seconds, and it's such a great piece of artwork.
Oh, thank you very much.
So, if you were to choose one Star Wars film to run with as probably your favorite, either growing up or one of recent, which one would it be and why?
Hmm. I'd have to say the first one, Star Wars: A New Hope. It's my favorite, and I like it because it has that fresh feel, and it could essentially be, if there weren't any other sequels after it, it could hold its own, like as a one shot too. At least I feel, and I just love how they had that whole hodgepodge of different characters in the story, and they're all just grouped together and fighting against the bad guy. It's just one of those kind of, it's generic kind of things, but good versus evil. It's a great story, and the first one's always been my favorite.
I can't blame you for that. A New Hope is the one that kicked it all off. It's the one that got this universe rolling. And I always say this on the podcast network, and I'm sure you would agree with this, is that when it comes to Star Wars, if we didn't have A New Hope and we didn't have what George Lucas put together, we wouldn't have this universe. And that's the beauty George Lucas established with Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. And I love using the actual effects and not all the CG. I love the classic look. The models and all that.
It's one of those things where the natural aspect of Star Wars is like the beauty of Star Wars. And the Force, so you're probably somebody who really enjoyed being in the theater, seeing Force Awakens. They brought back that very, very down-home style of filming where people were physically in the suits portraying these characters, which, again, is what the Star Wars universe is all about.
Yeah, I really think they did it right in that film, and it kept that feel like the original A New Hope, and it was great for rebooting it, in a sense. And it's a new story, but coming back, it had that similar feel, that nice, fresh, and real feel.
Yeah, that's one of, again, and it sounds like to me like you're Force Awakens, and you were very, very excited to sit back down in a theater seat and see this universe on the screen once again. I'm very curious about, and we've talked about it here on the podcast network, but we really haven't had an artist, a comic book artist, somebody on here who's involved in the art world itself. When it comes to Star Wars, one of the best things I think about the Star Wars universe is when Ralph McQuarrie sat down and designed the original concept for Star Wars. And what I talk about here is that the vision that Ralph McQuarrie had for Star Wars is very different than what we really got. However, his artwork is really, really beautiful, and it really captures the sci-fi universe in many ways.
Oh, are you there? Sorry. So it tends to break up a couple of times.
Oh, yes.
Can you hear me? Did you ask me a question? Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. That's why we have audio editing and everything else. No, what I was saying basically was that when it comes to some of the artwork that he was able to put together for Star Wars, there are many aspects of it that really take into account the true meaning of sci-fi and the movies itself. And I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on really artwork. And did you ever explore any of it when you were designing some of stuff for EPLIS or whatever else you work on?
Oh, are you asking if I saw some of his artwork?
Yeah, if you were ever inspired by any of his artwork.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think I have seen it. But I guess I'd have to say just looking at yes, watching the movies. But I kind of my art is really inspired by cartoons. I'd have to say from the 80s and 90s.
Oh.
That I have that kind of style, and I can draw realistically, but I always find it more fun to draw less realistic. Kind of with cartoons, you can play with that and change the proportions, and that's why I love doing more silly cartoons style.
Right. Is there anybody specifically that you kind of look to as an inspiration for your artwork in any kind of way?
Yeah, I one of my favorites, and one of the first comics I read, Calvin and Hobbes. So Bill
Uh,
Watterson. Yeah, and I love how wacky it was too, and also very philosophical. Great story writing too.
yeah, there are a lot of great comic book artists out there. Podcast Network, we've met great comic book artists. Emily, one of the things also I want to talk to you about when it comes to Star Wars is we have Star Wars Celebration coming up right around the corner. How pumped are you for Star Wars Episode 8 coming out this year?
Yeah, very excited, and I'm kind of afraid to see any spoilers because I don't want to see. I kind of like to. I feel like they really put too much out there, and then you're like, oh, I already know what it's about, and I've already seen those sneak peeks. Although, however, in the latest film, there was a lot of that footage that they put in the previews that they cut in the actual film. A lot of the shots. Did you notice that?
Yes, absolutely. There was a lot of things that they kind of cut out of it that I wish that was in it, and
Yeah.
it kind of vice versa in many ways. I feel like there were some things that were in it that I'm kind of like, well, maybe they could have cut out and maybe put in something else, like maybe some of the stuff that was in the DVD.
I know. I was a bit. I was kind of expecting it to be a little different, that Rogue One movie. I mean, it was still good, but I don't think it was as good as The Force Awakens. But of course, I think a lot had to do with them bringing back all those. Well, they brought back some characters in Rogue One, but most people cared for Harrison Ford and all those others that came back, and Carrie Fisher, that made it
Right.
really awesome. But so I kind of have, you have favoritisms in that way because those original characters were in The Force Awakens. But I thought the CG of that commander, oh, what's his name? In Rogue One, the one that they brought back, and
Oh, yes. Tarkin.
yes, it's just when they do that, it just never. I know they try and make it as realistic as possible, but it was just, I don't know, it's just weird.
That was actually one of my questions for being somebody who's very visual and really likes to look at the visuals. Coming into Rogue One this past year, I was actually going to ask you specifically, what did you think of the CGI Tarkin and the CGI Leia?
Yeah, no matter what they can do with computers, they just make them still so unnatural and creepy. Well, with Tarkin, okay, sure, he can be creepy, but with Leia, I mean, she shouldn't be creepy, but I don't know, it's just something they can't quite get right yet. And then I don't know, especially too because she's dead, and it's kind of a makes it a bit awkward when they bring people back CG, and that guy's dead too, but people don't remember him as much, I guess.
Right, absolutely. No, and I have to admit, seeing CGI Leia, it was hard for me to hold back my tears because of what happened and everything.
Right.
And it was just such a weird timing for CGI Leia to appear after what happened, of course, to
Yeah.
I agree with you completely, Emily, and I'm going to piggyback off this thought here, is that the CGI was great because it did bring back these characters.
Hmm.
However, it was a little wonky at times. If you notice, Tarkin's eye kind of fluttered a couple times, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, wait a second. Maybe we need to keep it to maybe somebody just playing Tarkin and not doing the CGI."
Right? I'm sure they could have found somebody that looked like him, similar to him.
And
And they're gonna do this now with all the characters. Like they'll bring back Harrison Ford, and I don't know. I mean, I know he's still alive, but I'm just saying, like 25 years from now, are they going to do that again? Uh, even though
right,
I don't know, just CG. I just nothing can replace the real world effects in real life.
I agree. I agree 100%. Where's episode 8? I know I was talking about this just a little bit earlier, and you said how it was episode 8, but it seems like they're moving again more and more with the episodic films into these just trying to keep these characters as natural as possible. And I think Rian Johnson might do a really good job of keeping true to this in many ways. But I guess we really don't know until we see the trailer and until we see this film in theaters in December.
Yeah, they should just totally put all this random stuff in it that has nothing to do with the movie, just to surprise us all. So when we actually go, we'll be all surprised, and we'll hopefully it'll be cooler and even better. Yeah.
So true. So true. I mean, I know right around the corner here on Friday, most likely we are going to get a trailer for Star Wars Episode 8. And I'm very curious, Emily, what are some things that you would like to see in this trailer? I know we just touched upon the natural aspect of Star Wars and everything and having real actors playing these roles. I'd like to see Star Wars Episode 8 do that maybe they've done in the past, or maybe something new that we would like to see.
Oh, it's a tough question. I don't know, more Chewbacca.
There we go.
I can't have enough of him. Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah, I mean, Rey's looking to be like, she's going to be a pretty strong character, and hopefully more acting of Mark Hamill than just that glossy stare or pistol.
Absolutely. I mean, I think talk about here in the podcast network. Yeah.
I was just saying, you know how much money they paid him probably for just doing that look. Yeah, put him to real work in this next one.
Oh man, I mean that would be great if we could just get some more Luke Skywalker. I think Emily, I think you just came up with our next T-shirt design, which is hashtag more Chewbacca, please.
Yes.
which is a great idea. No, but I think you bring up a really good point, because on our latest podcast episode, we talked about strong female characters in the Star Wars universe. And Sean and I kind of sat down and we thought about it for a while. And it seems like Star Wars is starting to focus more and more on the female role model in this universe again. I know Carrie Fisher, of course, did this beautifully over the years, trying to convey a very positive role model for young girls. I think Rey is going to take that with stride heading into Episode 8. And I'm so glad that Star Wars is really trying to grab a hold on being role models.
Yeah.
I didn't know what your thoughts on that were. Do you think we could see more of this play out? I mean, we kind of saw it in Rogue One with Jyn Erso, of course. I mean, just as a female comic book artist and somebody who I know tries to convey that message just as well, just maybe some thoughts on what do you think their plan is going forward here? And I mean, you saw Rogue One. I think great character for younger girls and everything else to look as inspiring in many ways.
Yeah, I think it's good that they're doing that, but then I kind of have the feeling that it's like everybody in the industry is trying to do that, like with Marvel and all that. It's like, oh, we got to turn and be all like, it seems a little forced in that way, and especially with 2 movies in a row that they have a female character. I mean, nothing's wrong with that, and maybe I'm looking too much into it, but it kind of seems like they're just trying to play on some trend in that way. But I do like it if they're playing more of the angle of, passing it to the next generation. So especially when you have Flynn and her and wait, is that his name?
Finn.
Finn, I'm sorry. Oh, there, I'm thinking Disney. Finn. So I thought that was good. Like, it's like the next generation, and doing younger people in it, and seeing the whole new Star Wars universe in that side, which I think is great. I think they should do. It's great to have a strong female character, but also, have some other characters too in there, and seeing how they evolve, not just focus on that one, but maybe do some big transformation happens to another character like Finn. Maybe he becomes a Jedi, or something like that. But yeah, no, it's great to show that women can be strong in these movies and roles. Don't get me wrong. It just kind of seems like a lot of these in the industry are just seeming to do that more and more. But kind of just balance it out, I guess, by trying to show other messages too, not just be focused on that one thing. But
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a really good point that you're right. There is a focus on this, and it is becoming a trend that Marvel, DC, obviously, when it comes to DC specifically, we have Wonder Woman coming up right around the corner. You're right. It does seem to be a trend here that they're focusing on females in these films and trying to push that along. And again, there is that overarching message that, yeah, it could be a trend in every beautifully, but it is nice that they're doing it at the same time because it's a good time to do it. It's, and then now. That's how I always look at it.
yeah.
All right, Emily, what do you have for upcoming projects that people can look forward to?
Well, we're working on our next book, EPLIS 5, so hopefully we can get that done this year. I know, unfortunately, it's crazy how much time that takes convention planning. This whole KidsCon is going to take up all my comic books creating time. And I have another story, a new story that I'm working on, a coming-of-age story. And I don't want to give too much away into it because it's still in the works. I'm still writing it. But hopefully that one can come out soon too. So it would be great to do a new project. And I also have a flashback piece, a mini comic that I'm working on, nostalgia to the 90s. And again, it's a little top secret. When it comes out, I'll be happy to share it with you. So yeah, and then I have upcoming comic conventions that I'll be at, and going to so KidsCon June 11th. Obviously, I'll be there, and again, that's at the Radisson in Nashua, and that's just a one-day show. Then I'll be at Massive Con, and then there's Plastic City Comic Con, Vermont Comic Con, Granite State Comic Con, and hopefully we'll make it to Baltimore Comic Con this year. I'm trying to get there too.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then I have another
places.
Some library events too coming up, and trying to do some more stuff with the schools. Last week, and I did a literacy event for the kids, a free event at the Nashua High School, and I did cartooning workshops with the kids, and it's really great. And we were creating comics and mask making, all sorts of fun stuff. So hope to do more.
That sounds like a ton of fun, and I'm sure a lot of fun being there. Emily, this is one of our favorite times of the show. It's a little thing we like to call plug time. And this is where you get to share where people can find you on social media. Awesome.
Yep, you can find me on Facebook at EPLIS Comic. It's EPLIS Comic. And oh, by the way, that stands for Illustrial Pulse Link Integration Synchrotron.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's my fun all-ages sci-fi comic book series, particularly for ages 5 through 12, and it's really fun. Check it out at also epliscomic.com, and you can order our books online there too. And also my illustration, you can see more of my stuff, emily@play.com, and that's Emily, then A-T, play.com, and I have children's book illustration work, fun illustrations there. I also do caricatures, and if any of you want me to draw something for you, let me know. You can shoot me up an email there. And also my KidsCon New England event, it's kidsconne.com, so the NE for New England. And you can find us on Facebook, KidsConNE, and also on Instagram, KidsCon.
Epic stuff. Herself. Emily, thank you so much for coming on Talkin Star Wars.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
For Emily Drouin, this is Robin Vogt from the Brick City Blockade Podcast Network. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Mr. Vogt Tweets. Make sure to head on over to Instagram. Follow me at the. You have to go to brickcityblockade.com to listen to this episode and subscribe on iTunes. Thank you guys for listening to Talkin soon. May the Force be with you. Always.